Happy Wednesday, male members and friends. Welcome back to Lesson 7 of our Sheepish Bible study that focuses on the 23rd Psalm. I encourage you to help spread the word. Tell your family, friends, co-workers, neighbors that if you are watching this on Wednesday at noon or Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., we are live. And so we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and you can either watch or listen on Dialpad meetings. If you don't have the Dialpad app or the website, which we'll give out later, you can just call 804-203-9011 to listen in, or tell somebody else, because if you heard me say that number, you're already watching or listening in some way or another. If you missed last week's lesson, I also encourage you to go back on any of the mediums other than Dialpad, so you can watch on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, and check out not just last week's lessons, but all of the previous ones. All right, so let's get started. Each week we are using a different variation of the 23rd Psalm to help to center us. All right, so today we are going to listen to the CEV, that's the Contemporary English Version. Why don't you listen in?
You, Lord, are my shepherd. I will never be in need. You let me rest in fields of green grass. You lead me to streams of peaceful water, and you refresh my life. You are true to your name, and you lead me along the right paths. I may walk through valleys as dark as death, but I won't be afraid. You are with me, and your shepherd's rod makes me feel safe. You treat me to a feast, while my enemies watch. You honor me as your guest, and you fill my cup until it overflows. Your kindness and love will always be with me each day of my life, and I will live forever in your house, Lord.
So let's recap. Over the past 6 weeks, we have learned who the shepherd is, how the shepherd provides spiritual rest, meet our internal, external, and eternal needs so that we no longer want. We have learned that the shepherd gives us space to physically rest, restores our soul, and leads us along the right paths. That leads us to our focus on today, which is the first part of the 4th verse. Psalm 23:4 in the New Living Translation says, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me." Now, I know that you are probably more familiar with the King James Version, which reads, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." To be sure, this verse has comforted countless through the ages, especially when they face the final chapters of life or are experiencing the death of a loved one. Perhaps that is why Psalm 23 is often read during funeral services, but today I will not focus on death, because in the original language in which it's written, the verse doesn't speak of death. In translating ancient Hebrew, the phrase, quote, "valley of the shadow of death," unquote, as we know it, are not accurate. According to most biblical scholars, the original Hebrew word used in this verse was samovet, which means deep darkness. Some translate it as dark shadow. However, in many English translations, this one word was interpreted as 2 words. The first, which means shadow, and the second, which means death. Now, this may have happened because the root word for both versions is the same as it is for death. However, several scholarly commentaries say that death does not fit in context with the rest of Psalm 23. They assert that this chapter is not about valleys of death. Instead, it speaks to those uncertain, dark, low experiences that we all face in life. A more accurate translation would be, "Even though I walk through the darkness, the dark shadows, or the darkest valley, I fear no evil, because you are with me." In the first half of this psalm, verses 1 through 3, David testifies about the goodness of God. Verse 4 marks the halfway point in the psalm. And here the grammar shifts significantly. Did you notice how David switches from referencing or referring to God in the third person, using terms such as the Lord or he, to in the second person using the pronoun you? When in the sheep pen and green pastures and beside still waters, David had been speaking about God. But in the darkness of the valley, the psalmist speaks to God. That's a small detail in the text, but it makes a big difference for those of us who have gone through a difficult season. It is empowering and it is encouraging to know that we can communicate with our Creator. Every mountain has its valleys, and while the dark valley is often associated with the end of life, the truth is, if you have lived long enough, you have undoubtedly walked through more than one valley. You know, you can try all you want, but there's no way around them. The desolate places are inevitable, and honestly, they're necessary. They're necessary parts of the journey. A walk in the dark valley may occur when a loved one passes away, or your employer unexpectedly says clean out your desk a few months after you close on your dream home, or when you're trying to navigate a loved one's addiction or struggle, or when the doctor says you have some permanent disease or illness, something without, at this point, some type of resolution or solution to get you back to where you need to be. Or when your spouse said he or she had no energy left to put into the relationship. A walk in the valley can be scary. It can make you feel like you are forgotten and are all alone. The valley can lead to you feeling like David did one chapter before. The first two verses of Psalm 22 are a stark contrast to the confidence and trust of Psalm 23. It seems David was in a dark valley when he cried out,
my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer, by night, but I find no rest.
According to several commentaries, many shepherds believe that the best route to the mountaintop is along the valleys, which often have deep ravines. In our lives, these ravines may be the disappointments, the discouragements, the dilemmas, the dark and difficult days that we face. But we can remain hopeful that this is the best way, because God is leading us to get to higher ground. In a shepherd's look at Psalm 23, Philip Keller, who we have been quoting throughout this Bible study, gives us a few reasons why shepherds would choose to lead their sheep through the valley to get to the mountaintop. One reason he says they do this is because it is the well-watered route. In the valley, there are rivers, there are streams, there are springs and pools of fresh water all along the way. During the summer months, long treks can be hot and they can be tiresome. The flocks experience intense thirst. They need frequent watering places so that they can be refreshed. There are going to be some valleys in life for all of us. The Good Shepherd assures us in John 16:33, quote, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world, unquote. As Christians, it is often in the valleys of our lives where we find refreshment from God. It is not until we have walked with the Lord through some dark troubles, some deep troubles, that we discover that God has been right there, protecting, providing, restoring, and refreshing us along the way. The shepherd needs to be sure there will not only be water, but another reason the shepherd chooses to take his flock into the high country by way of the valleys is that this is generally where the best forage is found along the route. Now, a good shepherd provides access to adequate grazing places for the ewes and their lambs, where the sheep can feed as they move forward on the journey. Generally, the choicest meadows are in valleys above the stream banks on the floor of steep walled canyons with towering cliffs above them on either side. The valley may be in a dark shadow where the sun seldom reaches the bottom except for a few hours around noon. Now, along the path, the shepherd is aware that predators like coyotes or bears, wolves, cougars are looking for an opportunity to prey on the sheep. The shepherd knows that in these valleys there could be rock slides, avalanches, or other natural disasters that could harm his flock. Sudden sleet, rain, or storms can send walls of water down through the valleys from the mountain peaks. If sheep become soaked by cold rain, the exposure could kill them in a short time. They are thin-skinned creatures, easily susceptible to respiratory complications. But in spite of all the possible hazards, the valley remains the preferred route of a good shepherd because its green pastures and still waters will give the sheep just what they need. While we as humans with the capacity to think and make our own decisions will not choose to walk through the dark valley, if it is part of God's plan, there is no escaping this valley or the shadow that darkens it. God doesn't shepherd you around the valley, but God shepherds you through it. In this, there is no choice. To be sure, though, no one wishes for dark valleys. Yet think about how many testimonies you've heard of people who faced difficult times and emerged stronger on the other side. When put to the test, people often discover a strength within themselves that they never realized. Then, when facing future challenges, they have the confidence to say, with God, I've faced things like this in my past, so I know that with God, I can face this present problem now. No matter how hard you try or how many times you pray, you will not always be on the mountaintop. In life, you will find yourself having walked through a valley. My sisters and brothers, when you find yourself in a valley, trust that God knows what is best. And if God leads us to it, God will lead us through it. And it may just be in the valley where we can find strength and sustenance in spite of the threat of disaster all around us. The psalmist says, yea, or even though I walk. Even though the valley is not where he wants to be, he accepts that he has to go through the valley to get to the high place. Therefore, he takes on the challenge without complaining. He sees the Lord as the shepherd who provides the good things like green pastures and peaceful places. And at the same time, the good shepherd still allows the hard time. As Walter Hawkins sang, we should be grateful because it is God who provides both sunshine and the rain. Now, the path that God takes us may seem to lead away from our dreams, may seem to lead away from our goals or even our destinies. Following the shepherd may cause us sometimes to believe that God missed a turn or that we actually are headed the wrong way. That's because most of us have been taught to believe that if we're Christians, God's goodness will always translate into earthly good. God will always save us. I preach about this often. God will always deliver us. Everybody will always love us. We will always be physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually healthy. We will be exempt from disease and pain. We'll always have enough money in the bank. Kids will always be respectful and successful. And that we will be able to retire without a care in the world. In that version of life, all the Christians turn out to be winners. Nobody dies too soon. No marriages end in divorce. No addictions. No failures. But that's not a biblical perspective. Throughout the Bible, we see that even God's chosen people, the folk God loves, were led through dark valleys. We may not understand it right now. I know I don't. But one day, I believe that God will reveal how every path God led us down, out of all of the possibilities, the path God chose was for our ultimate good. No other route would have been as safe and as certain as the one by which we came. And if we could only see the path as God has always seen it, we would select it as well. But even in the valley, there is good news. In Psalm 23, David says that with the Lord as his shepherd, he is walking through the dark valley. And the truth is, no valley goes on forever. At some point, the terrain will have to change. Higher ground is on the horizon. The psalmist never expected to remain in the valley, but to walk through it to higher ground where the light shines better. And it is not God's will for you to stay in the valley either. I hope you know that. Don't get paralyzed with fear. and stay longer than God intends. With every step you take, tell yourself, yeah, the shepherd is leading me. This too shall pass. And remember that darkness will be followed by the light. I know that it's human nature to focus on the valley and its darkness, but God calls us to trust the Lord in darkness when all that is left is the knowledge that God is near. The dark days cause us to enter into a very special relationship with the Lord. As Job said, quote, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you," unquote. There are glimpses of God that can only be revealed in the dark valley. The key to going through the valley successfully is not to stop or turn back. The longer you're at a standstill, the longer you're going to be in that valley. So keep on moving. Keep following the Lord, your shepherd. If you are in a dark space today, I want to encourage you that you will emerge from your valley. Hold on to hope that the best for you is yet to come. And even though you may not be able to imagine the shift from dark to light, trust that it won't last. And God will use this valley experience for your good and God's glory. I remember a song that Timothy Wright shared called "Trouble Don't Last Always." And you hold on to that. Yesterday was Halloween, and for the whole month of October, every time we turned on the television, well, at least when I turned it on, every channel, streaming service was recommending some type of horror movie or show. Now, personally, my preference is dramas, etc. But we all have our preferences. If I have to watch something scary, I would choose a fictional killer, somebody old school. Well, this new school stuff is a little bit gory. I go back in the day, I like Freddy Krueger, or Jason in the mini Friday the 13th reiterations. Because movies where the killers look normal, everyday people, they are the most terrifying. And I know Chucky ain't real and Mike Myers isn't coming after me, but there have been some movies where the villain was a regular human being with murderous intent. Those can lead to nightmares. Because the truth is, evil exists. Do not be misled. The Bible never says there will not be evil. Nor does the Bible promise if you follow the shepherd, you will never encounter evil. There is evil that happens in our world and in our lives, and it will attempt to destroy us. Evil will attack you without a justifiable reason. And unfortunately, there is nothing you can do to stop the adversary from attacking you, because that's just what evil does. As a sheep in the flock of the good shepherd, you could be simply enjoying the goodness of the Lord, while the enemy is scheming to take you out while you're walking through the dark valley. Whether you've been a Christian for years or you're new to the faith journey, you are susceptible to an attack, especially if you've been trying your best to live a life that pleases God. You are on the enemy's hit list. The devil, the very representation of evil, will try to attack you spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, financially, or any other way possible. The intention is to get you to give up on God or die in the valley. Just quit. And while you need to be aware of the possible danger, you should find assurance in knowing that because the Lord is your shepherd, you don't need to fear. The shepherd knows how to lead you during dark times. And when God is walking with you, when the Lord is with you, you'll be led, guided, protected, even in the darkest of valleys. So keep walking in faith and not by sight. You will get through this. Stop worrying about the adversary and what the adversary could do. Do not put more confidence in the enemy's plan than you do in God's power. And remember, while the darkness or the dark valley can frighten you, it can also enlighten and enrich you. A valley can change our course and set us in a new direction that turns out to be better for us and for the kingdom, especially in the long run. Put your confidence in Christ. Come what may, storms may rise, predators may attack, the rivers may threaten to inundate us. This leads to our final point of the day. We have learned that we should not fear because our shepherd is good, faithful, and all-powerful. We also have no reason to fear because God is always with us. Yes, evil is around, but the Hebrew word used here is literally saying that the Lord is by you. Just because times got tough and bad things have happened does not mean that God left you. A good shepherd never abandons their sheep. The normal care of life, what to eat, what to drink, and what to wear, they're very basic. The sheep know that the shepherd can and will take care of those needs with ease. But the dark valley, that can be frightening. Still, just as the shepherd provides food, water, peace, and comfort, the shepherd provides what? Protection in the time of adversity. And it's not always easy. You may have to remind yourself that even if the path is dark, even if the shadow blocks the light, remember that God is with us. So we don't need to be afraid. Keep saying it. Keep believing it until your fear gives way to the peace that surpasses all understanding and a confidence that everything will turn out for your good. Because what? The Lord is with you in the valley. And God is still in control. Revelations 12:11 says we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Look back over your life and see how the shepherd's hand has guided you. How the shepherd's hand has sustained you in the darkest valleys. Then testify to somebody about what God has done. Just think about how over and over and over and over and over God has proven God's self. Again, you will see how the good shepherd was guiding you through dark days and deep valleys. The Bible shows in the Old Testament passages that God is with you wherever you are. Even when you do not think God is with you, God is there. Jesus' given name, Emmanuel, literally means God with us. Now, let's close the day with a couple of biblical reminders of this truth.
Can I go anywhere apart from your spirit? Is there anywhere I can go to escape your watchful presence? If I go up into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in the realm of the dead, you are there. If I ride on the wings of morning, if I make my home in the most isolated part of the ocean, even then you will be there to guide me. Your right hand will embrace me, for you are always there. Even if I am afraid and think to myself, there is no doubt that the darkness will swallow me. The light around me will soon be turned to night. You can see in the dark, for it is not dark to your eyes. For you the night is just as bright as the day. Darkness and light are the same to your eyes.
Don't be afraid. I've redeemed you. I've called your name. You're mine. When you're in over your head, I'll be there with you. When you're in rough waters, you will not go down. When you're between a rock and a hard place, it won't be a dead end, because I am God, your personal God, the Holy of Israel, your Savior. I paid a huge price for you, all of Egypt, with rich Cush and Seba thrown in. That's how much you mean to me. That's how much I love you. I'd sell off the whole world to get you back, trade the creation just for you. So don't be afraid. I'm with you.
The takeaway for today is God is with us. Even if we have to walk through the darkest valley, God is with us. And finally, remember that the God on the mountaintop is still the God of the valley. While your position and situation may change, God is still God wherever you are, no matter what the situation may be. Question of the week is this. Consider all that we've shared today. What part of Psalm 23:4 speaks to you? Share a testimony then of how God has kept you in a dark valley, how God walks with you, or how you live without fear. What part of Psalm 23:4 speaks to you? Share a testimony of how God has kept you in a dark valley, how God has walked with you, or how you live without fear. All right. Thank you again today. Before you go, let me invite you to our prayer call tomorrow at 7 a.m. on our dial pad setup. You just call 203-9011. That's an 804 area code. 2039011. If you or somebody you know is in need of groceries, our food pantry will be open on Friday from 12 to 1. You are encouraged to come to church school on Sunday. It is our children and youth singing Sunday. So won't you start off at 9:30? Come to church school. We've got men's classes, women's classes, and then we got church school for children and youth as well. Bring them before they sing. But this is one of the Sundays that we look forward to, and we are trying to create one of the baddest children and youth choirs in the land. And so do what you can to be here to support our young people, parents of young people, grandparents. Make sure those kids are here on Saturday at 10:30 for a rehearsal. All right, 10:30 for rehearsal. And if they are from 5 on up, bring them. All right, we need them in the choir. All right, it's time to head over. If you're watching Wednesday at noon or Wednesday at 6:30 to After Bible Study Chat, you can get there 3 ways. Download on your smartphone the Dialpad Meetings app, or go to meetings.dialpad.com/SMZBC, or just simply call 804-203-9011. Thank you. Let's chat.